part of the discussions here today. I want to be part of this historical occasion, because I think these are all historical occasions, and I want to be part of what's going to happen next in the country.
Well, I'm interested in a united Ireland, and I'm interested in looking and hearing what people like Basil McRae are going to say at the conference today. I'm interested in their take on it and how we're going to get the economy going in this country.
Well, I think there's a real opportunity, I suppose, to not only look at the issues around the partition of this country and what reunification means, but actually look at some of the ways in which we can resolve this situation and some of the ways we can move this forward. And it's a real opportunity, I suppose, Derry as well, in terms of the North West and some of the real exciting regeneration projects that we're looking at in the city and region, to insert our politics into it and look at solutions in terms of developing all Ireland structures.
Great Britain is Ireland's third biggest export market. 1/3 of all of Ireland's imports come from Great Britain. Our businesses cooperate and trade with one another on a daily basis. Our goal should be to maximise the economic output of all parts of the island of Ireland, because improving one is beneficial to us all. So if you want somebody in support of an all-Ireland economy, I'm for it. The opportunities presented by the UK City of Culture are immense, and having attended the Milwaukee Irish Fest, I fully see the opportunity for economic tourism. And in that regard, I'm personally extremely pleased to hear the announcement that the FLA will be coming to Derry. There's a place called San Diego in California. It's 15 miles from the Mexican border. It's surrounded from the rest of America by mountains. It's about as far away from Washington as you can get. It spent most of its economy on servicing a naval dockyard, and when the Cold War finished, it nearly went bust. They had, by necessity, to turn their economy around on their own. They introduced a model of cooperation and collaboration, and because they worked together, they replaced the 100,000 jobs that were lost with 120,000 high-tech, high-paid jobs, and that is the lesson that Ireland, North and South, needs to understand. Cooperation is the right way forward, but we need to understand each other if we're to do it properly. Thank you very much.
I take great encouragement with Evan Push being involved in very important discussions with James Riley, the Health Minister in the South, around the need to consider health in the context not just of Enniskillen, the new hospital that will open there, and that is an example, but also how that affects people in Cavan and Monaghan. Similarly, John O'Dowd and Rory Cohn, Education Ministers North and South, considering how falling school numbers in Protestant schools in border areas in places like Cavan and Monaghan, how that can be dealt with on an all-Ireland basis. There are a plethora of examples of how we can work together to build a better future for all of our people. So the challenges are clearly there. The North-South institutions will work. They are capable of being further developed in a way that can bring huge dividends for all of our people, and I look forward to that engagement. The decision to build a radiotherapy unit at Altnigilvan Hospital, Karen has been very much involved in that campaign, with funding from the South and from our administration in the North. A big difficulty obviously around the funding for the A5, but I expect that the construction work on the first stage of the A5 will begin later this year on the road from Derry to Strabane. Don't think there's a problem about that at all. So all of these things are hugely important examples of how we can work together to build a better future. And in the context of at some stage in the future there being a referendum which the people of the North will decide. I think at some stage in the future the people of the North will decide that our future lies on the island of Ireland, with good relationships with England and with Scotland and Wales and the European Union. So the examples are there. I am hugely optimistic for the future, and I welcome very much the fact that there are unionists with the courage of Basil McRae and John McAllister and indeed others who are prepared to put their head above the parapet and begin a discussion which will lead, I believe, to a better and safer and more secure future for all of us.
far as the north-south dimension is concerned, I've been talking about this for 20 years. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't take every measure that we can to do things together which will improve the well-being of people in both parts of the island. Why should we not? And I think I would like to see the North-South Ministerial Council, for example, having an ongoing remit to be constantly looking at what's happening and seeing where opportunities are being missed for developing that kind of interaction north and south. I think that the future is in our own hands. Too often we deal with the present economic climate. It's not, it is. And I think let's get the vision and let's get the action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But what we do need to do is to open up the type of economy in Donegal and in the north. And the problem is we have, in the north, it's a very closed economy where they just simply trade with Britain primarily. And there is a lack of investment, and that's why we don't have the type of levels of jobs that need to be created in the north through inward investment. So there is a number of ways to do that. You know, we've talked about harmonisation of corporation tax, we looked at excise, looked at that. You know, we have the business community already trying to overcome these obstacles, and in some cases successfully overcome these obstacles to provide employment and to create profits for themselves. But the business, the political establishment, I think, is behind the curve in this here. Those on the ground are finding ways around it, but yet those in authority have failed to resolve those difficulties. So I think that is one of the probably most beneficial things that could happen in the next number of years, because I think that it would have a very serious direct impact for people right across this island, and particularly in the border community.
Thank you very much. In terms of the work that I do, I would like to see now the health inequalities and deprivation for all of the citizens of this island, particularly in this border region, that we work in partnership to deliver and share health and specialist services. A recent example of this has been of the Pink Ladies Breast Cancer Support Group, who, along with a lot of others, helped secure the Cancer Centre at Altmagalvin. This is what can be done when people, and in particular women, come together and are determined not to take no for an answer and fight against that unjust. Services such as these will not only improve people's health, but will tackle the severe financial and emotional strain that people have to endure when faced with such a grueling illness and journeys. In terms of myself, as a young mother, for my children, I would like to see an island of equality and prosperity, where my children will grow up and experience life to the full and be able to stay in this country and not have to move away. Thank you very much.
But ideally, I would like to see ethical leadership, and that's about civility and compassion. And as Basil said also, that's about cooperation and collaboration. That's so needed. For me, I think that integrated education is crucial. I think that that's the only way we can build a shared society and a respecting society. I think that for anybody who knows the work that I'm in, I'm very interested in building an ethical and shared remembering and commemoration. We're coming up this big decade of centennial events, 2012 to 2022. And I worry that there's going to be reenactments, and I worry that this is going to be a show of strength and that it's very negative. Whenever we have this amazing opportunity now to look at that decade of the change in violence that happened and the unresolved issues of that time, and how we bring that into today's situation, because a lot of the key themes are still there. How we look at those and look at them and start to unpack and use it as a prism to start unpacking the more recent conflict, because that acted as a catalyst for the conflict that started in 1969. So within that decade of commemorations, I'm hoping that we start that now, that we start to unpack all of those key themes that still continue to haunt us today. And more specifically, I think looking at, breaking down the deep, deep roots of sectarianism and starting that journey together as a shared society.
I don't have to be convinced that to get to Dublin, I need the N2 and the A5. To get industry in Donegal, I need Project Kelvin to link me through telecommunications infrastructure to the rest of the world. And I need an educational sector that can produce the labour that will attract inward investment. I don't have to be convinced of that. Whether the people in Cork or Waterford or Limerick are as convinced of the need for an all-island economy, I don't know. And our main focus now is trying to attract the emerging markets to take our exports. So I see huge logic for the whole of Ireland in marketing our goods and our services and our indigenous enterprises together in these emerging markets, and also trying to attract the top multinational companies. And there is a huge logic economically in an all-island approach to these, as well as I think from a social and a cultural perspective in terms of fairness and equality. And my own, in terms of specifics, I'm trying to move this forward, would be to take a few case studies of the things we're trying to do on a cross-border basis, like the Northwest Strategic Alliance Gateway Project, to try and develop third-level education, and a science park on a cross-border basis, absolutely essential if we're to compete in this part of the world. My own view is that if you look at these case studies, you're going to find out from the bottom up the kind of practical problems that the current crisis is causing us. And I would take a few of those examples, whether it's in the economic area, in the social service area, or in health, as an exemplar, so that the top-down work being done by the cross-border bodies through the North South Ministerial Council and both governments can meet the bottom-up initiatives that are trying to solve practical problems on the ground, to see actually what needs to be done for these to survive in this massive debt crisis that seems to be encompassing all our attention.
I just want to give you one example of what I saw a few weeks ago when I took Thomas Hammerberg, Human Rights Commissioner of the Council of Europe, to a flat in North Belfast. The lady might be faced the damp running down the walls, children hoarse with asthma, and a woman with weary determination who'd been trying to get electricity turned on, to get heating turned on, to try to get her circumstances changed. She'd become part of a group of residents who were campaigning for change. That is a woman living in the protection of democratic laws, equality, targeting need, the right to be heard, and yet it hasn't reached her. And what I would like to see in 3 to 5 years' time, in fact I'd like to see for her in 3 days' time, never mind to 3 to 5 years' time, is the work that she and a number of the residents have done with international experts in housing and health to modestly change their circumstances that could reduce the price of the heating, that could make the place worth living in for a while until they decide what they're going to do with those shadow flats. That is treated with respect, and that Basil, Martin, all the elected representatives ensure her humiliation is dealt with straight away, but that her voice and the voices of those who are trying modestly to change their conditions are supported in doing so.
I've been at all the United Ireland conferences, and every one of them has been different. When we were down in Galway, it was all about natural resources, about the West. When we were in Cork, it was about a different thing. In Uri, it was different, and so on and so on and so forth. But it can't stop here. It can't be just us all coming together and having this conversation and then Sinead. It has to continue. And, you know, Basil, I think, put it well when he was saying, when he hears what Republicans are saying, he tries to figure out, are we for real? Do we mean it? Is there some hidden trap in all of that? There isn't. He said, came here to engage because he cares, and I believe him.
Well, it was challenging. You know, I mean, I did say at the start that I wasn't entirely comfortable. It's not that, you know, I'm not happy they didn't come, but people will ask questions from a different point of view, and I think it's important that people hear answers from a different point of view as well. So I thought it was really good that people would do it, and I've said it is generous to let people like me come along and have the time, and I appreciate that. And I do think that we have to find a way of making sure that we do more of this.
If you're not in conversation, if you're not listening, you're not putting your point of view, then none of those things will happen. And it was brave of them to come. The last conference was good in Newry as well because of that unionist input, and we need much more of that. And we also need to have platforms within unionism that Republicans can go to and put our points of view.
Communicating, I suppose, points going, but also wanting a kind of discussion. What do we mean by all of this, and how do we move it forward? And there was a lot of kind of practical suggestions which had implications to move it forward. I think it was a very good afternoon.